Lions rookies getting some national love, and Brad Spielberger going to join us from PFF. And oh yeah, one of Brad Holmes' favorites is back. It's a Wednesday edition of Locked on Lions.
You are Locked on Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And on a pleasant Wednesday, a sunny Wednesday, November 9th, and a Thursday, November 10th, it is Locked on Lions on the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt Dery with you. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day right here on Locked on Lions. Lions and Bears coming up Sunday at Soldier Field, 1 o'clock in Chicago, noon Central Time, as the Lions go for 2 straight wins. We're going to talk to Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus, one of our buddies from PFF, coming up momentarily to break down where the Lions sit right now at 2-6. The Athletic came out with their all-rookie team at the halfway point of the season. 3 Lions made the all-rookie team. We'll tell you who those guys are coming up. Lions also have the NFC's Defensive Player of the Week. We'll get into that as well. And as always, Locked on Lions today is sponsored by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. You can follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked on Lions on Twitter, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page, and as always, watch us on our Locked on Lions YouTube channel. We'll get some really nice comments from some of our watchers, viewers, listeners yesterday on YouTube, and I appreciate all of you. And thanks for checking us out each and every day. Tomorrow, Lauren Cox, Locked on Bears, will join us as we'll do a little Thursday crossover. As far as today, news of the day, DeAndre Swift limited in practice today. If I had an old bit siren, I would play it. I think he's going to play on Sunday, but this is going to be all year with the ankle and the shoulder, where some weeks he's close, other weeks he's not to 100%, blah, blah, blah. But the Lions are going to need him Sunday because I think Sunday is going to be a shootout. I think Detroit can run the football on a bad Bears defense. I think the Bears and Justin Fields are going to score some points on the Lions defense. There's no way the Lions defense is going to do what they did last week and only give up 9 points. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I like Detroit's chances Sunday. I'll continue to beat that drum all week. By the way, big news today. Trinity Benson is back. That's right. The Lions have claimed wide receiver Trinity Benson off the Broncos practice squad. So he's gone from Denver to Detroit, back to Denver, back to the Motor City. So Trinity Benson residing once again at 222 Rodwood Drive. So the Lions are in need of receivers. Certainly Josh Reynolds hasn't been healthy. DJ Chark hasn't been healthy. Quintez Cephas, Milk Carton. I mean, you just don't know. So the Lions have needed another receiver. They had Stanley Berryhill or something like that last couple weeks. Now they're bringing Trinity Benson back. Oh, my goodness gracious. Not one of Brad Holmes' better trades, by the way, Trinity Benson. But he's back. This is like Andre Fluellen. Remember Big Flu? Guy was like cut and brought back like 50 times by like a handful of regimes. It's like bring back number 96, Andre Fluellen. NFC Defensive Player of the Week this week was handed out today to Kirby Joseph of the Lions. How about that? 2 interceptions, huge pass defended in the end zone. The third-round pick from Illinois continues to make plays, and today was rewarded with the Defensive Player of the Week award. It's the first time in Lions history that a defensive rookie has won the award. What does that tell you? Not even Darius Slay, not even Ndamukong Suh. So pretty cool for Kirby Joseph to get that honor. And he's going to be a huge key Sunday because if Justin Fields is going to be running around, Kirby Joseph's going to have to be on that back end again, making plays, especially in the passing game. And we'll talk to Brad Spielberger about that momentarily, if I get his name right. But it's true. Kirby Joseph has been a great find. Last year it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round. This year, it's Kirby Joseph third round. He gets better every week. And I'm excited to see him and Tracy Walker play together next year. Because I think the Lions will, you go into next year and think about, all right, maybe they'll add another corner or whatever. But if it's Okudah and Jerry Jacobs and some of the improvements from some of the younger guys, and then we're talking Walker and Joseph, that's good. That's a secondary. Deshaun Elliott really hasn't been that bad this year either. It's been some of the other corners like Amani Oruwariye, A.J. Parker, and others that have been the problem. But congratulations to Kirby Joseph. He'll be going up against Justin Fields, who was named the NFC's Offensive Player of the Week last week for his 178 yards, most in NFL history by a quarterback in a game in the rushing department in their loss to the Dolphins. And I got news for you. I've been listening to some Chicago sports radio. They think there's no way the Bears lose Sunday. They're like, the Bears have played really well against Dallas 2 weeks ago and came up short. They played great against Miami last week. They came up short. Those are two playoff teams. Oh, they're gonna finally get that win this week against the Lions. So, not a surprise that that's going on in Chicago. I want to tell you about the Athletic and their all-rookie team at the halfway point. And let me do that coming up next. Shall we do that? First, though, our friends at SimpliSafe. If you thought about securing your home with home security, but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Lions listeners can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year. You won't want to miss it. All right? SimpliSafe is great. It seems like no matter what's going on at your home, there's somebody watching it from SimpliSafe. All right? Even over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package thefts spike nationally. That's why our friends at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system. All right? What do? They call you. There's high-tech sensors, 24/7 monitoring agents. SimpliSafe tech support staff is there for you. If you don't think your system's working, they're awesome. They were named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, a third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real, so you can get priority police response. Don't miss your chance to say big. And the only security system I recommend, get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/lockedon today. That is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl. Locked On NFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, folks, really cool stuff from The Athletic today at theathletic.com. And that is that 3 Detroit Lions made the midseason NFL All-Rookie team. Aiden Hutchinson was a part of the defensive line group, or the edge group, I should say, joining the likes of Kayvon Thibodeau and Trayvon Walker. The linebackers, Devin Lloyd of the Jaguars, Quay Walker of the Packers, and Malcolm Rodriguez of the Lions. The Athletic writes, quote, Hard Knock star Malcolm Rodriguez has been a bright spot on a rough Detroit defense. He hasn't nearly seen as many total snaps or reps firing back in coverage as Devin Lloyd, but he's still banking stats. 54 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble, and recovery. Very cool. And in the defensive backfield at safety, you've got Jaquan Brisker of the Bears, who we'll see this weekend. Jalen Petre of the Texans, tied with Kerby Joseph. Quote, Joseph has been coming along as of late and just had 2 interceptions against Aaron Rodgers. He's improved as a player ever since he got to Illinois, and he looks more comfortable by the week at using his length to take away passing lanes and his range to add value as a tackler. So those are 3 Lions draft picks. And again, we got another half of the season to go, but very cool to see 3 Lion draft picks, 3 Brad Holmes draft picks, Aiden Hutchinson, Malcolm Rodriguez, Kirby Joseph, as some pillars for the future there on this Lions defense. None on the offense, by the way, but again, we're expecting Jamison Williams to be a stud. at least come next year or even in December if he gets an opportunity. But that's a good sign. That's why you want to build through the draft and keep accumulating picks and hit on some of those picks. So, and that's exactly just this sort of wave of players. Not red wave. Where's that red wave? But a wave of players that are coming in. That's what you need to keep this rebuild going. All right, BlueNile. We love BlueNile. They're a sponsor here on Locked On Lions. Let's talk about them before we talk to Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. As the original online jeweler, BlueNile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. They've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tools let you choose the diamond, shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. BlueNile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft her perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. It's simple, all right? BlueNile is amazing. And they got jewelry experts on hand 24/7 to help you, either via phone or online. Mark your moment, make your moment sparkle with BlueNile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON, to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON. Always enjoy our conversations with Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus, one of our buddies from PFF, and he joins me today. What's up, Brad?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, buddy. Good to see you. 15-9 slugfest. Was that what you what you expected on Sunday? And I guess part two would be what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, huh?
Always see an NFC North team beat the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I mean, 3 interceptions. I want to say he had 8 against the Detroit Lions his entire career before that, so almost matches half the total. And as much as he wants to blame other players, I think this one was pretty squarely on him. The throw to David Bakhtiari that Aiden Hutchinson kind of smartly sniffed out, realized, hey, why am I pass rushing against this guy? And he's running the other direction. But was underthrown by a couple yards, just not a good ball. And then was pressing the rest of the game, trying to, I think, do too much and throw a touchdown on every snap, seemingly. Yeah, there's real problems in Green Bay, and now they obviously lost a lot of players to injury in that game. So, like you said, a little bit ugly, bit of a slugfest, but you'll take those wins against Green Bay every time.
You know, I want to piggyback on something. Some of the Packer players after the game, and you were tweeting about this today, complained about the turf. There's been a groundswell of a few players saying, let's have all surfaces be grass. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
I think the NFLPA would have to make a really big stand and get everyone behind it. And I think while sometimes it's hard to get all the players aligned, a lot of these contract things and stuff like that, the higher paid players versus the lower paid players are going to have different motivations, different incentives. For this, I think it's pretty much across the board. And I know the NFL and owners now are trying to push back on the idea there's a large or noticeable difference. I think you have to trust the anecdotal, stories from players. Other sports, in soccer, they use grass everywhere. I think the owners are kind of being a little bit cheap here. I could see it happening because they talk about player safety a lot. We have new concussion protocols, in the middle of this season, all these different things. These soft tissue injuries, can end guys' seasons, end guys' careers. I could see them kind of galvanizing everyone and making a big push here.
So the Lions, got the win. Like you said, it wasn't the prettiest of victories, but the defense obviously stepped up and confused Rodgers a little bit to the tune of the 3 interceptions. Defensive Player of the Week is the rookie in Kerby Joseph. PFF is falling in love with him as his grade was close to 90 or at 90. What are you seeing from him, and is this surprising you?
Yeah, the last month now, he's about an 83.5, I want to say, overall. Interesting to see, I suppose. There's been some good cornerback play and good safety play since they did move on from, DB's coach, Aubrey Pleasant, who all, questions I've asked about him, he was highly regarded, a well-liked coach, and believed to be a good coach. But, maybe they did need a different voice there because he's played well. The return of Jerry Jacobs, he's been grading in the high 70s for us. Jeffrey Okudah continues to have a good stretch here and graded about 79 over the last month as well. So, I was trying to kind of look at how they've been since that decision in the last, couple games. And there's been a lot of growth in the back end. But yeah, Kirby Joseph in particular, A really fun, really good player. I know he was a guy that, Mike Renner, our head draft analyst, who you maybe had on before, was super high on. I think he ranked him a lot higher than a lot of other boards. He's a dynamic player where I think he can do a lot of things differently, kind of like a Tracy Walker, maybe not elite in any area, but a really good player in all aspects of playing safety. And so it's been fun to see.
So the way he's playing now, obviously they are married to Tracy Walker, who's out for the year. But does it matter in your mind if come next year they say, all right, we're going to leave Joseph where he is, kind of in that free safety spot, and then Walker would slide in and play the strong safety? Is that overrated? Is that, to me, the way Joseph's playing right now, I like him playing center field and being back there.
I think in today's NFL, you can work around it. I also do just think Walker can play both roles. But yeah, in today's NFL, where everyone's playing too high safety, and you want guys that can do both of those things, that can both cover or come down to the box and make plays, even if maybe they have one particular aspect they're better at. You love the diversity because you can then kind of have, pre-snap, show single high, rotate to two high, or vice versa, and kind of confuse quarterbacks and do different things. And I think both guys can do that. So, maybe you keep him at a spot he's more comfortable with because he's the younger player, and you try to get Walker to get more acclimated to a different role. But I think it's a good problem to have. Like you said, a little bit overrated as one guy needs to do X. In today's NFL, they should be able to do all of it.
Derek Barnes had a big game, getting more snaps, certainly. Anzalone's still out there. Rodriguez was hurt. What are your impressions of him over the last couple of weeks? But really, this was a breakout game for him. How do you get him on the field now?
Was, and I kind of was confused. It's hard. It's such a tough position to grade. It also just to kind of evaluate in today's NFL. But I thought he was a decent player last year, as a rookie. So I mean, Rodriguez obviously been very good. Right out of the gate was, playing well, and obviously was the hero of Hard Knocks and all those things. But I do think eventually, I know Anzalone sounds like he's a leader in the community and the team and all those things, a good veteran presence, has the connection to that New Orleans Saints, centric coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. But eventually I think you want Barnes and Rodriguez to maybe be your two guys. I think you do. I think you need to increase his snap count, let him play more, because he was everywhere in this game on Sunday.
Interesting, the Lions got the stop at the end of the game on Sunday, something they have not done. I know you were also putting this out there on the Twitter machine today about some advanced analytical numbers about the Lions defense in the second half and down the stretch of games. It's not been too good from a statistical standpoint, Brad. Tell us about it, but obviously improved this week.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at how teams performed in the second half. Again, controlling for game within one score, because obviously if a team's getting blown out or if they're blowing out the opponent, it's going to be different. Philadelphia, if I didn't control for one score, Philadelphia looks like the worst second half team in the NFL, and then you realize, they're doing that because they're up by 20 points in all these games. So controlling for one score, looking at offensive and defensive efficiency, the Lions, I'm not breaking any news here, have struggled on the defensive side of the ball in these games. They've kind of struggled in any scenario, but the Green Bay Packers actually worse. Actually, the worst team in the NFL in the second half on defense in terms of how they're limiting their opponent's efficiency. But again, it's a trend where when I split it first half and second half of the year, I think you're seeing Aaron Glenn make adjustments. I think you're seeing them get better. They're in the top half of the NFL the last month compared to being, I think, dead last the first month. So they're learning some things. They're doing a little bit differently on the back end. I think, again, shifting to a little bit more zone, a little bit less man. They've kind of gone back and forth in that seesaw a lot of times. But I think they are learning, and they're getting better. Also, just individual players getting better, the young guys they have all over the place. But some encouraging things, this last month.
What about offensively? You guys gave Jared Goff a pretty bad grade. I think it was 48 or so this week. As far as PFF goes. And again, we do the top 5 and bottom 5 every Monday. Did them yesterday, but they won in spite of, I guess, not a great performance from their quarterback. Can they do it again this week is the question.
They probably could. I think this week is going to be fascinating. I think we might have 500 total rushing yards in this game between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. It's funny because these two teams are actually very similar in this, in that they're both top 10 in run block grade and both bottom 5 in pass block grade for us right now. And Detroit, obviously, you'd think should be better in that area. They've obviously have a lot better players. 2 good tackles that you think more of when you're thinking of pass protection. So maybe there's room for growth there that we'll see in the more immediate future. But yeah, I think they don't need Jared Goff necessarily. The Bears' run defense is dead last for us. I think you saw it in their last game against Miami. They could do whatever they wanted. They just have no anchor in the defensive line. I think I talked about how I had issues with the Lions' defensive line last time I came on the show. The Bears' defensive line is the worst in the NFL, I think, comfortably. They're going to add a lot of resources there this offseason. But nevertheless, yeah, I think both teams are going to be able to run roughshod over the opponent this weekend.
More with Brad. We'll talk about the Bears again. And, I've been on this let's pump the brakes on Justin Fields Express bandwagon, but let's see what Brad has to say coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. All right, Brad Spielberger is with us from Pro Football Focus. Follow him on Twitter at PFF_Brad. We always love having him on the show and breaking some things down. All right, so the Lions go to Chicago this week. It's time. Enough's enough, Brad. They've got to win a road game under Dan Campbell. It's like the due date is expired. It's time. I like this spot for them. I know the Bears. It's crazy. I have friends in Chicago telling me that you listen to sports radio there, whether it's the Score or AM 1000, and it's like they won this weekend. It's like they beat the Dolphins. No, they lost. And it's like, oh, but we got our quarterback, Justin Fields, and blah, blah, blah. Where are you on Chicago overall right now? And obviously the big talk is that Fields is now becoming a star.
I should preface, I'm not also from Chicago. I am a diehard Bears fan, so I've heard it all, I've seen it all, I've read it all. Look, again, I was looking at every team in the first second month of the season. He is the highest graded rusher, not even just rushing quarterback. He's the highest graded rusher in the NFL the last month, but he's still 30th in PFF pass grade the last month. I think you have seen a lot of growth and improvement. I think we're seeing fewer mistakes. Only took 2 sacks in this game against Miami. That's kind of been his biggest issue, is holding on to the ball forever, taking a lot of bad sacks. We saw less of that. He did have 3 touchdown passes, the most touchdown passes he's had all season. 2 of them were very nice plays. One kind of a roll out to the right and a beautiful throw to Cole Kmet. The other over the top of Xavier Howard, the best corner for Miami, to a leaping Darnell Mooney. So, again, only 138, I think, passing yards. But you are seeing growth there, but him getting anointed, I think, is a little bit premature. He always had the physical talent and the gifts. We all knew that. And I think you're seeing things getting pieced together. Chase Claypool should be way more involved. Obviously, their big trade deadline acquisition should be more involved this week against Detroit than he was against Miami. But no, he's not quite some juggernaut, passer that's going to go for 300 yards, whatever, against Detroit. That being said, I want to say he averaged 12.5 yards per attempt last year. He only threw the ball 17 times, but one of his best games of his young career was against Detroit last season. I get the mania, but I think it's a little early, yet.
If you're Aaron Glenn, then what do you do? Obviously, you're going to learn a little bit from the tape from last week with Miami. Look, the Dolphins couldn't stop the Lions 2 weeks ago in the first half. Obviously, that kind of changed in the second half, but Detroit put up 27 on them. It's not a very good defense. The Bears, obviously, like you said, Kmet had a big game, and they've got some weapons now with Mooney and Claypool, and I love Herbert, the running back, I do. But I think the Lions, like you said, should be able to run the football. And back to Glenn for a second, as I'm all over the place, but what do you think Aaron's going to do? Because, do you spy? What did Miami try that didn't work?
So it's going to be super fascinating because as a passer, again, Justin Fields is, I think, our lowest graded passer against man coverage. But what we've now seen against both New England and Miami, 2 teams that are right up there with Detroit in the highest rate of man coverage in the NFL, when you play man coverage, your corners turn their back to the offense. That's that's what they do. And when you turn your back to Justin Fields, he might run for 60 yards, every once in a while, or at least, pick up. He had 6 third down conversions with his legs in this game alone. So, and they had a spy. They had Jerome Baker a couple times. I think they brought a safety down, had Javon Holland as a spy, and he's one of the, best young safeties in the NFL. Fields is such a good athlete. It doesn't even really guarantee you much, even if you do have a spy or if you have your edge rushers kind of playing. They kind of freeze and try to set the edge, not even truly rush. So it's going to be fascinating if you play a little bit more zone, or if you stick with your man principles, but just be very cognizant of the fact that he could take off at any moment. And those DBs got to flip their hips, turn around, and get after the quarterback as fast as possible. But I think we see it the same way, that the running attacks probably will determine this game, who can really just continue to pound the rock, stay ahead of the chains, and just kind of, impose their will on in that facet.
I think probably the hope, too, is that if Jeff Okudah is sort of playing that hybrid role that he did a couple of weeks ago, that he's racking up 12, 13 tackles, and they're for 4 or 5 yard gains and not, 24, 34 yard gains for Justin Fields. That one run, obviously, against the Dolphins last week was pretty impressive. You mentioned Chicago defensively and the issues they're having on that D line. Roquan Smith now gone. What about at linebacker on that back end?
Yeah, Nicholas Morrow. I mean, look, I think Mike McDaniel is one of the better play callers already in the NFL, but poor Nicholas Morrow got taken for a ride in this game last week. I mean, he puts so much stress on the off-ball linebackers, Mike McDaniel does, and he did that again in this game, which is interesting because I think Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously can operate there, can be successful there. Maybe a game where Hawkinson could have been super involved for Detroit on offense. So I think that it will be there, but the secondary in Chicago actually has been solid. Eddie Jackson is kind of playing like Eddie Jackson again. Jaquan Brisker, their rookie safety, is I think one of our highest graded defensive rookies in the entire NFL. Has been a good coverage player, had a great leaping one-handed interception last week, but also has 2.5 sacks on the year, can kind of do a lot of different things. Jalen Johnson's back and playing well. The other rookie, Kyler Gordon, in the slot has gotten better as each week has gone on. I do think Amon-Ra could have a big game against him, but he has gotten a little bit better lately. So I think it's all about attacking the middle of the field, because the interior defensive line for Chicago is just not a good unit. You can run to the edges as well, but I think they're kind of more disciplined and gap sound on the edge with Matt Eberflus. If you want to just get behind Frank Ragnow, get behind that interior and just push, you can get 4 or 5 yards before Swift or Jamal Williams even has a hand on him.
Wow. Well, we'll see how it goes this weekend, Brad, but I know at least for now, the sun is shining today, and people are excited the Lions are – the 5-game losing streak is over. But to me, I mean, it's time to get that road win. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's long overdue.
I totally hear you. And they're, field goal underdog. It opened at 2.5 and moved to 3 for Chicago, which I found interesting. But yeah, it's as good of an opportunity as they're going to have this season to get a road win.
Brad, always love talking to you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
There he is, Brad Spielberger, with us from Pro Football Focus. As always, want to thank Dave Sofaro, the folks at PFF. Anytime we need any of the guys from the network, we always love talking to PFF. And obviously, if you can get on there and subscribe to Pro Football Focus, you're going to get your money's worth each and every week. Tomorrow, we do the crossover with Lauren Cox, talk more Bears and Lions on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions.